pain and disaster are part of having fun. It's like an adventure playground compared to a safe playground. We're the adventure playground for science, tech, design type stuff, and you don't want it too safe.
Kevin, thank you so much for spending the time to chat with us today. Mate, I've been so excited about our catch up. Look, for those out there who have no idea what we're chatting about tonight, tell us who you are and what you're involved with.
I'm Kevin Waugh. I'm based in Whangarei, and I run Questionable Research Labs, which is a community science, tech, design, sort of a youth play space. And it's kind of a variant of the classic makerspace that is kind of more sciencey, I think, and more youth orientated.
So I've got two main questions to kick us off. How did the name come about, and what makes it different?
Yes, well, there's a bit of evolution here. This started off way back in 2016, 17, I think, and in a little rugby club with another parent with doing a little coding club. We started out with a couple of kids, and we sort of grew a bit, and we moved into the library space in town, and we invented a name for ourselves. And at the time, the kids came up with techno hackers as a name, and so we were the techno hackers, and we grew. I'm giving you a bit of history here, but we grew. A lot of enthusiastic kids went from coding to doing robotics and bits and pieces. Eventually, we kind of abandoned the library, went to a community hall, and that was fantastic. We had a much bigger space. We continued growing and evolving. We started running science and design stuff as well. And eventually, around about 2020, just pre-COVID, we outgrew that space as well. And we managed to get a building in town that was between the tenants moving out and redevelopment. And this was brilliant. Suddenly we had like 400 square meters of this amazing space. And we were started doing adult things as well. So we thought it's kind of time to reinvent our name, and Question Research Labs was, how do we come up with that? I think I had the domain sitting there waiting for a use. And so we renamed ourselves, and we came out with the logo, which is the interrobang, which was the perfect logo for us. It's a combination of question mark and what. So it's kind of what the, which really represents the things that we do quite well. And so for a period of time there, we had this massive space, and then we had things running 6 nights a week, and we had a couple of tech startups working in the building who really good interaction with the teens, employed them. Basically, it blossomed. So we're right in the centre of town. This is the ultimate sort of maker space, centre of town, big space, scope for doing all sorts of things. We were Question Research Labs well and truly by then. We evolved after that. They kicked us out. And we had a period of dark ages where we had no real space at all. And we kept the teens going in the back of a dojo for a little while. And eventually, with the help of Adrian Henderson, who was a Labour MP up here, she made contact with the school, and the school, which let us use their old library. So this is where we are at the moment. We're in a big 1970s square, tall library, 200 square metres of space, which is too small, but has been really good. There's pros and cons of being in a school. We can't really do adult stuff, so we're really kind of youth orientated now, and we're out of the centre of town, which makes it hard for kids to get to us. But at the same time, if you were able to see the space, you'd realise it's like a crazy, happy place for anybody who's into sort of tech, design, science, whatever. In fact, it's kind of a space that's for anybody who's into anything, really. If you're just a sort of curious, interested in something person, then you kind of fit into this world we have here. So Question Research Labs was, I don't know, you can say where it came from, but it was a convenience, and it fits us very well now.
So man, for people who are out there and they don't know why they would want to come along to a makerspace, why they would want to, what are the perks? Why would someone want to come along and join in?
It's really about community. The fundamental thing, you have lots of sports clubs and other spaces for people doing creative arts, but people who are cognitive, they're curious about the world, they like making stuff, they like inventing things, they like playing with ideas, experimenting with ideas, then having a space that they can come in and just be with other people that are like that, and kind of develop their interests. It's really about community of geeks, fundamentally. The community I think you get anywhere with a makerspace, when it's got the brakes off and not too controlled by rules and regulations.
And that's a really interesting point, that balance between enough order so it continues in a manageable way, but few things in the way so that there's creativity that can spike and whatever takes someone interest. How do you balance that?
The culture we've got here is really built up over time. And part of our philosophy is pushing the boundary. Like, so whenever a kid's kind of into something, then or a teen's into something, my job is like the fire starter. I kind of push them further. So our goal is to, we say explicitly to parents, we'll work really hard to make sure we don't cause permanent harm to the kids. They sign this off, by the way. Permanent harm, but we won't stop them burning themselves with a hot glue gun or soldering iron. We will. Pain and disaster are part of having fun. It's like an adventure playground compared to a safe playground. We're the adventure playground for science, tech, design type stuff, and you don't want it too safe. So yeah, you're right. There's a tricky balance of those rules. You've got to keep it. I don't know that that's a balance you're always going to be sort of working on. I think we tend to err.
Yeah, it sounds like the sort of thing that if it was absolutely clearly defined, you're probably doing it wrong, because it always has to be amorphous and evolving to get it right, because that's the way people are.
Yes. Well, part of our philosophy as well is really experimental. So everything we do is here experimental. Any group that we run is kind of, we're trying ideas out, throw stuff at the wall, see how that goes. We have stuff that doesn't work, and we, like my science group, which is the one that I most enjoy running, I'm really explicit with the kids that, the stuff doesn't always work. This is not potted, tutorial where we know exactly what the outcome's going to be. We try stuff out, and, we crash and burn occasionally, and sometimes it doesn't work, and a lot of times it's super cool.
And I think that's a really important point. I remember limited resources in school, and I remember a lesson plan and limited time to educate, so that each of the events in the lab had to work perfectly because there was the lesson that they had to teach and the outcome. And I think inadvertently that creates the idea that these things just work straight out of the box. And so the failures and the hurdles and the iterative process of figuring something out can sometimes be lost inadvertently. And I wonder if you have some thoughts around makerspaces and their role around those failures.
So the two parts of that was one is education, the education system, and that's one topic in itself, and the other is makerspaces separately to that. And makerspaces can run educational events, but if they do run educational events, working to make them experiential, risky events, not making them safe. We know the outcomes. We have our list of outcomes. We're going to try and achieve these outcomes and tick the box at the end. And if 3 of the kids get there, that's great. It's the other part of it is about having fun. If you're having fun doing stuff, you're probably on the right track. So, what's the happiness factor? Like our kids here enjoy coming here. It's completely voluntary. Getting them out at times can be problematic, but it's a happy, fun space where they can play. Now, for example, our Friday group, we have coding after school to about 5:30 for younger ones, up to about maybe 13. Then we have our older kids going up to about 8:30 at night. Older kids here straight after school till they get picked up by parents or we hasten them out.
That's a good problem to have.
Have kids get in trouble because they weren't meant to come and came. They get not coming as a punishment, So, yeah, it's about fun. It's about.
That sounds
fun.
like mission accomplished. Yeah, absolutely. If they're having fun learning and forget that it's about learning, then that's got to be mission accomplished. I've got this burning question, and I know as a parent, and there's going to be parents out there watching, it can often feel overwhelming to see all this availability and all this amazing stuff that kids can do. What advice would you offer for parents out there if they don't have access to a makerspace, or perhaps they're contemplating going down to a makerspace? What can parents do who are watching this, want to do something for their kids to get them tinkering, to get them making stuff, but let's say for the argument of this that they don't have access to a makerspace?
A makerspace can be made. That's the first rule, I think. So it's like my background is psychology, cognitive science, sort of memory and learning is my expertise. I'm not a engineer, I'm not a coder. I have picked up skills as I go, so I'm a kind of a generalist scientist. But the things that happen in this lab happen way beyond my skill level. Here we've got Robbie, who one of our teens came in and set up our lighting and cameras for this interview, who
Shout out.
Yeah, has developed skills doing things like the 48-hour film festival, film competitions, short film stuff we get into every year, and he's gone on and done other things as well, developed the skills really well. Oh yeah, right, coming back to your question, which was, what do you do? You're a parent and you've got this kid who's kind of into stuff, but how can you support it? Get a couple of kids together, start it yourself, find a space, find a community room, get another parent. There's parents out there that are into tech. You don't have to know much. You just have to foster the kids playing with this technology. Make sure there's some cushions at the bottom of the cliffs, stuff like that. You want to set up the environment for them to play and do things. Find other people with skills to come in and help out as you go. There's such a need. We're in Whangarei. This is not the tech centre of the universe, but there's a huge diversity of amazing skills that come in and help out here.
Well, interestingly, I've heard you say several times community, and it kind of just clicked with me that a makerspace may be about the activities that you do and the things that you do, but first that kind of community seems like the underpinning, and I wonder if what we're really getting to is if you get a couple of kids together, well, that's a community, and then the activities seem to follow behind. And I guess that's what I've seen, what you've described. There's this community that's built up, and the technology is way beyond perhaps what you or I could do, yet the kids design, or the parents contribute, and community builds up around it. And I think that's a really key part of a makerspace. I wondered if you had some thoughts.
Yeah. If you took the community out of the space, there's a sense of community and belonging that the kids and the parents have when they're in here. I wouldn't be here either. That's kind of that is such a part of it, to walk into a space, to have people that you can communicate with and do things with, even if it's just mucking around. Quite often that leads to interesting stuff later on. Like the community is fundamental, and it's really missing in a lot of our towns around. I mean, I'm not in Auckland, there's probably more opportunities in Auckland, but once you get out of those big centres, there's actually not much community for people who are kind of clever, creative, into being the mad scientist, engineer, developer, crazy artist, designer, musician, photographer. There are some art stuff goes on in small towns, but not for the other kids.
So is that the case, that we all wait for someone else to do it, but really it's about someone just starting something?
Oh, this is a really good point. Do you wait? Yeah. I mean, I think most people feel that their lives, like your life, like my life, are really filled to capacity. Like, I don't think you can find anybody who's not going to say, like, how the hell am I going to fit that in? So I think one of the keys that worked here is that I had my own kids, and I was making a space, making an environment for my own kids. So if you have your own youth of some sort, from whatever age that happens to be, like if you can do stuff with them, oh my God, like that's the best thing in the life. Just making an environment where they play, you're there, you're enjoying it, they're enjoying it, and that's kind of the nugget of it. If you wait for somebody else to do it, it's like waiting for somebody, waiting for the school to get better, or waiting for the government to improve. It's going to be never. So really just do it. But especially if you've got kids involved, then there's that extra motivation. I think that's probably one of the drivers. In the same way that with sports clubs, reffing and all that.
I wonder if a key part of it, and maybe a lesson for us adults, I know for me personally, we don't like failing, because a lot of our culture is around not making mistakes and being so perfect in our execution. And I wonder if starting something like this, and even the core ethos around a makerspace, is built around the generosity that comes with being okay to fail and to learn from that as well.
Hey, so you're right. That's a really core aspect. This of a makerspace that's working well. You want it to be a risky place. I can't emphasize too much how important that is. So everything we do here is experimental. People should try things, crash and burn. One of the slides I have up at the start of like my science group is a whole bunch of things, and one of those is do the hard stuff. It's okay not knowing what you're doing. And I really emphasize that. Most of us, most of the time, don't have a clue what we're doing. And if you use that as a barrier to doing things, as happens as you get older, the older you get, the more likely you're not to do things because you've got this ego involvement and not being like, oh my God, I won't be very good at that. You really don't want to lose it. So the kids who have been through our lab and gone out into the real world, who have really sucked in that culture, oh my God, they're so valuable. Like at university, they had a collection of our teens were hired by the university as they're creative technologists in their innovation space. They're first year students hired right at the beginning of their path through university, work for tech startups in the holidays, and the tech startups want to hire them, serious money, take a gap year from university. So the kids who get that concept have a chance to do hackathons, which are a brilliant tool for learning that idea of try stuff out. If it fails, doesn't really matter. The kids that pick that up and run with it, they're just like these super enormously valuable young adults. Oh my God, these are superpower kids.
And I think there's a lesson in there for us adults to be the most comfortable with failure and the iterative process that comes with it as possible.
Join something like a Terrible Ideas hackathon. Be run down at all. They've had their one at the start of the year this year, but where things like that, a Terrible Idea hackathon, the ethos is do something bad that's cool. And if you crash and burn, then it's kind of part of the story. Tim, think back to your life. Some of your best stories are going to be the disasters. The pain memory drifts away over time, and you're left with these epic stories of near death, where that project turned to smoke.
Absolutely, man. It's very hard to get the magic smoke back into the devices when I've had one of those learning discoveries, but I've definitely learned something from it. So, Kevin, I know the burning question that I have is I'm on this mission to meet interesting people from around New Zealand and talk to them and understand what makes them tick. I'm sitting here feeling absolutely fizzing talking about what you do. How did you get into this? Why you? Why do you do this?
There's a personality things that work really well for helping to run a space like that. You want to be a little bit ADHD. That's going to help in any environment that is a creative, chaotic mess, and you want to push boundaries. My background is sort of educationalist, sciencey, like tertiary teaching. I'm a generalist scientist. This is where the ADHD comes in. Like I just like a lot of things, so just being interested in stuff. So for me, that a space like this fits me really well because I can do anything here. Like I can encourage kids to do stuff that I'm never going to have time to do, and I can push them even further. For me, it's kind of a.
It sounds like a personal mission, and at the same time, lots of people might have some of those attributes or some of those inputs. What made you take that next step?
I think a lot of things. You look back at your life and you'll see that the story of your life will be a whole lot of sequential little steps. Quite often, it's not a big step. Like I went out and said, let's make a makerspace. Like the hurdles are huge. Part of your life story is like looking at those small steps that happen, and when you look back, you think, "Oh, that's kind of a big step." But actual fact, this happens gradually. As I said, I started with my own kids learning coding, just getting some kids together learning coding. Not even started by me. There was another parent who kind of pulled that group together, and I kind of took it over time as it morphed into other topics. that's what you want to happen. So any other parent out there, just start something. People will come, and people have different skills, and it's a matter of being able to put those skills together. For me, it's not a matter of these big steps. It's just kind of progressive, doing the next thing, the most obvious next thing, and we've been going since 2017, and there's just such a really rich established community now, and my kids have gone on to university and doing amazingly well.
Very cool. So if that got you into it, what keeps you doing it?
It's actually the same reason, which is when you see kids' skills develop and they get enthused in something and they pick it up and run with it. You can see kids when their eyes light up. They're kind of there's a look. You can see a look in them, and they're off and running. It's that seeing that growth in kids is very rewarding. I think it's probably, this is like being a teacher, when you can see these kids and help them develop. They develop resilience. They get amazing team working skills. The technical skills are beside the point. They can always pick that stuff up, but it's the stuff around it, that ability to come together, pull ideas out, not worry about its failure, give it a go, pivot, keep on going, and abandon it without embarrassment if it's a complete disaster. So that is super inspirational, having kids that kind of go through that process and they get older. And once again, Robbie, just sitting there, like, to be able to come in and just set my, this room up like this, where it looks really, like, I would never be able to make this look vaguely professional, and it's like really cool. And that's just through.
It does look very pro.
To see kids, it's not even me really. It's just that they have a spark. They go on and do all sorts of other things that develop their skills. It's not just like Robbie would have learned a bit in the lab, but it's really all his outside stuff. But it's that attitude to going out, learning that attitude mightn't come from. Your parents probably a big involvement there, Robbie. But it's having that attitude to go out there and try stuff out and learn stuff without really fear, and being okay with discomfort.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
You mentioned ADHD before, which is a thread from these conversations that I've had with people talking about mental health and talking about the impact on mental health. I'd love to hear your thoughts on makerspaces in general and mental health around kids and impact, if any.
If I looked at the participants in this lab, I'd say probably, there's hugely neurodiverse. Like if we took account of the kids who were, somewhere, ADHD is a continuum, it's a bell curve, and they'll be somewhere on the sort of ADHD spectrum end to really, or on the ASD, the autism spectrum, they'll be somewhere down that end, or they'll have dyslexia, or there's huge amount of neurodiversity in kids that are actually brilliant when they have an opportunity to have community and play in a space like this. So a huge chunk of kids in here would some of them fly in school, but some of them struggle in school. But in a space like this, where they can do stuff without fear, without demands, with fun, and it's in their interest, then they kind of do really well. So in terms of ADHD, that's one a lot of engineers, developers, are kind of going to be like that. But like it is a think of a bell curve, and everybody's somewhere on there, and there's some real advantages to being a little bit distractible, but at the same time having a high focus when it's needed, and to be able to cope with competing demands, flooding and just flying, winging it on the spot. Those are things you kind of want, at least some of it, if you're going to have a startup or a tech team. You also need to have that person who's able to, manage the boring stuff, the process, and you also need that mix of people in there. So diversity of people is always important.
Any thoughts on finding your tribe and having like-minded people around you as far as the makerspace goes?
I think sort of community environments attract people who are like generally. So if your space is open to, like a makerspace is going to be classically going to attract people who are probably, more ADHD and, neurodiverse. As long as the space is really welcoming to those people, you community forms around them. I don't think you need to. I mean, I think it's kind of a natural consequence of the space that forms. I don't think it's not. I think it'd be very hard to actively go out and create a safe community for people who are neurodiverse. I think they would just organically happen, in the same way that you don't kind of need to make a sporty place for sporty people. You just have a sports club, and strangely enough, people into sport kind of, appear. Those that aren't into sport, just for some reason, I don't know, just don't get involved. I mean, what I mean is it
self-selects.
It self-selects.
Self-selects, yeah. Kevin, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. For me, it's been a mission to find interesting people around the country and bring them out as best we can and have these kind of chats. So for me, this has just been amazing, and I can't thank you enough. Tell us, how do people find you? How do they get involved in the makerspace?
So Questionable Research Labs has a website, and it's questionable.org.nz. We've got various spellings of that because people are bad at spelling, so we brought up a range of domain names around that, qrl.nz even. And on our website, we've got really good details how to contact us, including a map.
Hey, before you click away, thanks so much for watching the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you can catch our next videos that are coming out. Thanks for being part of the crew.